Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today we're going to take a look at a watch company called Czapek. There's a sort of two parts to it, actually three parts perhaps. The very first part was when Czapek and Patek got together and formed a company called Patek Czapek et Compagnie on May 1st in 1839. Then later on, I think around 1845, Czapek went on his own and set up shop in Geneva. Then it went on. I'm not sure how many years after that, but it sort of faded out. This has happened with most watch companies. Patek, though, did get together later on with Philippe, and we still have Patek Philippe. The modern Czapek was reestablished in 2012. So on the left, you can see one of the original calibers from 1850, and then on the right is one of their new ones, the SSXXH1 from 2016. So you have certain kinds of playovers, you might say, from one to the other. Now, they have a series of different watches. Some of them, I'm not going to cover them all, but I'm covering the main ones. There's certain specialized ones and some other things that they can do that are very worthwhile, but they're not part of the main collection that they have. So we're going to just focus on the main collection. The first one is the Quai de Bergues. This was one of the first places that Czapek set up shop in Geneva. So he named these models, or this sort of collection, after the first address that he had. Like if he lived on Elm Street, it'd be called Elm Street. The prices on there is quite a price range. The one on the left is gold, 26,800, and the one on the right is 14,800. So there's quite a range within this particular model. They all have one thing in common, and that is on the subdial at 8 o'clock, it's just secondhand, and then the subdial at 4 o'clock, there's an interesting combination of a day subdial. You have 1 through 7, and then you have Sunday through Saturday split on that one, using a single hand to indicate both of them. This you'll see throughout all of them. Then there's a lot of different models of this, and the price depends on the model, the deloche, any other kind of aspect to it. In 2016, they won a Grand Prix prize for what's called the public prize. They don't have it anymore, but it was a prize. Now, their movement is the SSXH1 that I mentioned. That looks a lot like their early one, the horological. It's proprietary mechanical hand-wound movement with a 168-hour, 7-day power reserve on 2 barrels. I'm assuming the barrels are set up in serial. With a frequency of 3 hertz, which I happen to like a lot. I like anything below 4 hertz I like, which is usually 2.5 or 3 hertz. The finish is using double open ratchets, sandblasted bridges, blued screws, beveling, and then there's a final on lodge. Now the next group of watches is sort of what I call almost a quantum leap, because it goes from, they're not cheap by anything, but you have a sort of a base of like 14,000 Swiss francs, and then you jump to 88,000 for the titanium version of the Pla Vendôme Tourbillon Suspendu. The Pla Vendôme was another location that Czapek had. Titanium, it's got hours and minutes, and then it has at 8 o'clock there's the tourbillon you can see, and then at 4 o'clock is the second time zone. So right in the middle up at 12 o'clock that's where your main time is, and right below that you can see a power reserve indicator on that. And you have a night indicator that's day-night located at 6 o'clock. That little window at the bottom is the day-night one, which is handy really handy actually when you have more than one time zone. This won a prize in 2019 for one of the prizes they had. Let me see, it's called the Salon Exceptional Watches, and they won a prize on that for the Watch of the Year. It's quite an honor. Now, the movement itself is really it's really a beautiful one. It's called the SXH2. All of them have the preface of SXH something or other. Again, high horology, proprietary medical, mechanical hand wound movement. Again, something else I like. And it was developed jointly by Chronode and Czapek Company. It has a power reserve of 60 hours, which is a nice one to have, and it's got a single barrel and one mainspring to it, and then again the frequency of 3 hertz. So this is a very expensive one, a very nice one. Now, this next series is called Faubourg de Cracovie. Now, I added the chronograph because these are all chronographs. And they have less of a range in terms of the price. They're all very close to 30,000. The one on the left is the Blue Hour, the Arrow Blue, and the one on the right is the Grand Fou, which is the type of enameling of the Great Fire. This is also won the Watch of the Year in 2018. So it's quite a nice range of watches they have. Now, the one on the left has blue handcrafted Guilloche, and it has what's called a resonance dial. I'm not sure what that is, but it's interesting. It's and then with rhodium-plated steel hands. That keeps them in good shape. Really interesting looking dial. Now, the one on the right with the Grand Fou with the enamel dial, blued hand, it's also COSC. I think all of them are COSC if I'm not mistaken. Now, this guy is a fast one, what I call a mule beater. SXH3 is a 5 hertz, which is very fast. It's got a power reserve of 65 hours, which is really something, but it's an automatic, and so you get a little more out of that with an automatic. It has a column wheel, chronograph, vertical clutch, linear hammer. All of these things are important for those who are interested in chronographs. And then it has a golden rotor with a Czapek logo on it. And the finish is it's good finishing, finely sandblasted and diamond polished anthrite bridges and snailed tortoise. And it's certified COSC, like I said. All of them from this series is a very nice sort of what I would call a gentleman's chronograph collection. Now, this next group of watches is right now in sort of a position of subscription. It's a brand new one. It's a true luxury sports watch. I think that would be the best way to describe it. Some may say, well, it's not very sporty looking. It's more formal, even an office watch. Whatever the final name for it is, it's a very interesting watch. Now, these are 18,000 Swiss francs right now, and it's on a subscription basis. And subscription, essentially what you do is you order it, the kind you want, the style you want, and so forth, and then they come out and you'll get one from the subscription. And they have several different models of this, but essentially they're the same. It's time only with a date at 6 o'clock, a little date window down there. You have what's this one on the left is the type is called Secret Alloy with red tip at the up at 12 o'clock. This little red tip. Also, too, the second hand has a red tip on it. The one on the right is simply called Burgundy, which is the color of the dial. Now, the thing that is interesting to me about these, I love the bracelet. They call it the Stairway to Eternity bracelet, and you can see the little stairs on it. I don't know why. I just think that's really a neat thing on that. Now, the movement on this is the SXH5. One of the things, they had a list of all of the different companies that they worked with on this, and one that I recognize with Atto Kalpa, and they made the balance wheel and the hairspring for this. And looking at it, to me it's a wonderfully interesting looking, and it has sort of this harder, almost steampunk strength to it, which you expect in a sports watch. Somebody who's a little more active may be doing it. Runs at 4 hertz, which is about the most common frequency of most watches today. It's got a micro rotor and with 4 gold inertial blocks in it, and the micro rotor is recycled gold mass. Now, I'm not sure what that is, but it sounds really interesting. Got 56 hours of power reserve, and this is in using a single barrel. With a single barrel, though, and a rotor, you're going to get a lot more time out of it. And it has finished with open ratchets, sandblasted black bridges, beveling, straight-grained sides, 6-hand chamfered inward angles on it. This right now, there's some women's watches that are part of this, of the ones that we looked at, or they have special ones that are a little smaller for women as well. And then they have a whole other thing of certain, like a super special watches. That's what I call them. That's not what they call them. But the main ones you can see from this. It's an interesting brand. It really is. The thing I like about it is, first of all, they're very open about, what they're made of, what different companies they worked with, and so forth. And I like that, and it has an interesting. People talk about, well, is it in-house or not in-house? Yeah, it's the whole in-house and not in-house really is a matter of a certain commitment that a watch company has to making its own movements. And Czapek has done that, but they've also done it with a little help from their friends, I'll put it that way. In other words, there's certain elements that they don't have the specialized kind of sort of production for. On the other hand, they work with different companies to create a unique caliber of their own. In fact, they have quite a few calibers of their own, which I think is a very healthy sign for a watch company. So this is, if we're talking about a dichotomy of either in-house or not in-house, this is very definitely in-house, and it might be what you might call a cooperative in-house, and using really good parts and using extremely good elements along with a lot of skill that goes into it. Anyway, I would very much like to hear your opinion of this and any comments you might have. And if you have a Czapek watch, I'd like to hear what you think of it. And as always, this is an invitation to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.